I'm John Lanius. Welcome to The Room. The Room gives you access to Geniecast top thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, business coaches, sports celebrities, and much more. Our guests will share ideas and concepts that you may use to better your organization and propel your teams. Our guest today is Chic Thompson. Chic inspires executives, MBA students, and children to be curious first, critical second, while problem solving. His latest creative adventure is founding Waggy Labs, a global social innovation incubator for kids' ideas, and it means what a good idea. We couldn't agree more. Hi, Chic. Welcome to The Room.
Hi. Thank you so much.
It's so great to chat with you. Before we started, we learned we have a lot of connections, which I'm excited about to talk about. We also know that your building is testing a fire alarm, so we may have to pivot and brainstorm a whole new way to do interviews.
Along with thunderstorms and 94 degrees, yes.
There you go. Well, you are known as the godfather of brainstorming. So how did you become known as the godfather?
Well, what's interesting is 1970, I just had gotten out of University of Delaware, and I got hired by a gentleman I played tennis with. His name was Bill Gore. Bill had recently left DuPont because DuPont didn't think his idea was marketable. Bill started a company in his garage and hired a bunch of us, and I was a chemist, and he called his product Gore-Tex. And when Bill found out that I was also a cartoonist and I also did public speaking, he said, "Hey, and that you asked so many questions," because I would ask questions constantly of him while we were playing tennis. He said, "I want you to learn everything there is about brainstorming. And every Friday, I want you to run a brainstorm for us and come up with a new use for our new product called Gore-Tex." So now the rest is history. So I started brainstorming in 1970. Brainstorming was not a term used very often. It basically came to be in the advertising industry in the late 1940s, but I was using it in the industrial area. And that's how I got my start. And I think what makes a good brainstormer are the clients and the challenges, because then you have to adapt your techniques to them.
That's a great place to start. And I think Gore-Tex is a great name to drop right at the top of the interview. So let's actually walk through a project. We could use Gore-Tex, maybe another one, but how does the brainstorm start for you? And what are the steps that we need to know?
Well, I think the brainstorm, so why do we have a brainstorm? I think good brainstormers help clients find their blind spots, whether it be for the product or when I work with a government agency for in the process. And how you find blind spots, because see, you can't see blind spots, but you can hear them. So when you hear a client say, "Well, this will never work," like Pepsi said to me in 1994, "We will never sell water." I mean, then it's a blind spot. So then I have to design a brainstorm to be able to get them to think about, how do I get them to sell water? I mean, it's now called Aquafina, but how in 1994, when no one was selling water except Perrier and Nestle, you then design your brainstorm around helping them see through that blind spot and turning it into an opportunity. So for me, every brainstorm I do is customized around the interview, the pre-session and interview with the client.
So it's really great that you mentioned Gore-Tex, Pepsi, you mentioned government agencies. I know from my background that you've done work for both the CIA and the FBI, which is really interesting because that's rare.
Yeah.
And you've had an opportunity to work across many other industries. So when you approach a new project, what does your creative process specifically look like?
So, well, I start off with interviewing them to ask them the what questions about what do you want to see? Not what's the solution, but what do you want to see? And then the big one is, so if we don't find a solution, what do you think the result's going to be? Because that gives me the sort of the what and then sort of the why. And then I try to understand, who's the consumer? But more importantly, the blind spot. Who isn't going to be the user? And a lot of times, by my just asking them, so who would never use this? And then they go, well, this person, this person, this person. And then I designed the brainstorm to flip that they would never use it into, whoa, there's a potential new user. And those are the big ahas. So it's basically that, to me, it's that 1 or 2 hour initial interview with the client to ask them about the what, the why, and the who. Then I design the what if ideation session based on that initial information.
That's interesting, because I'm thinking about what you said about blind spots. I'm thinking about how when you're doing these, maybe you're interacting with people that are pessimists. So how do you keep the room inspired?
Yes.
Is that true? Is that true?
Oh, especially when you're getting into government agencies and bureaucracies. Jack Welch, the CEO of GE, brought me in 1988. And he said, I got 300,000 employees, and I want you to help me redesign our process. I want you to help us make GE boundaryless. But he said, a lot of the people, they're going to go, no, we can't become boundaryless. And they thought, everything was going fine. We're in 13 different silos. But Jack Welch goes, I want us to be able to share back and forth. So my challenge was I threw out an idea. What if we got rid of everything that was unnecessary and we called it junk work? And after 4 years of training, I traveled the world to the 13 businesses. We eliminated 27% of the reports, the approvals, the meetings, the measurements, and the policies. No longer would we say the employees were pessimistic about new ideas and creativity and empowerment. We called the process workout.
That is okay. This is great, because you've mentioned now Jack Welch. We're only about 8 minutes into this interview, and you've mentioned just about every major person or brand in the past 20 years, including government agencies. So let's focus on, just for a minute, beyond the pessimists. Let's focus on the people that think that they're not creative. So what do you tell someone that says they don't believe that they're creative?
Well, what's interesting, it's negative self-talk, where we'll go and say, well, I can't, and we use it. And so I'm an athlete. I love extreme sports. And so that's when you start applying a little sports psychology to try to help to encourage them to realize that when they say to me, when they find out I'm a cartoonist, they'll say, God, I wish I could draw. And I say, I can teach you how to draw cartoons in 10 minutes. And they go, no, I can't even draw a straight line. And I go, I can't draw a straight line either. That's what a ruler is for. So I try to encourage them that we are all creative. And that's why I now teach kids, because kids don't say any of that. And if I can get the parents to then go and look at the kids, I go, whoa, there's my breakthrough. So that's why when I turned 65 7 years ago, I saw a poem that year. It was Robert Frost who said, when I was young, my teachers were the old. Now that I'm old, my teachers are the young. And I go, there it is. There's my blind spot. I've been teaching MBAs and CEOs and government agencies for all these years, and I've never brainstormed with kids. So that's why I designed Waggy Labs. And all I can tell you, I am learning every day. And that's why I encourage now my clients to go, and I share the Waggy Labs curriculum with them, and then to get them to brainstorm. We call them guppy tanks, not shark tanks. We call them guppy tanks, to work with their kids to solve community issues. Because that's where I think the kids are right now. And they taught me that. I'm all about, I used to invent drinks and, PTFE clothing and stuff like that. And the kids are trying to deal with making it a better world. I'm going, whoa, I'm now the learner.
I think it's so great that you mentioned the child mind. I went to beginner's mind, Zen mind. And so I think it's really perfect that we are where we are in the interview, because when we come back, we're going to talk with Chic Thompson to talk about Ideastorm, something here on Geniecast. So stay with us. You're watching The Room.
Introducing Genie Talk, the latest offering from Geniecast, the #1 virtual event and experience company. With Genie Talk, you can connect with an expert on any subject, anywhere, at any time. It's a one-to-one conversation in a private video call on our safe and secure platform. It's not a presentation. It's not a speech. It's an engaging, informative conversation with an expert. Whether it's a C-suite, business author, or prominent speaker, they are on Genie Talk. Just search for what you're interested in, from leadership to marketing, to motivation, to diversity and inclusion, and more. Find one of our many experts on that topic. Then set up a time to meet virtually. We'll connect your calendars to find a convenient time. Next, we'll send a link, and then the virtual call happens. Payment is simple and easy through our easy-to-use platform. It's the ultimate fast, frictionless way to speak to an expert about anything, anywhere, anytime. That's Genie Talk.
The guidelines of brainstorming are to always look for a second right answer, and then a third right answer, and then a fourth right answer. And the way I do that is by using the words from improv, from Second City. And when I come up with an idea, I go, and I'm building on it. Also, always looking at your problem from a different perspective than it was handed to you. I had a hospital ask me to brainstorm patient flow through their emergency department. I'm thinking, what's my different perspective? How would a NASCAR pit crew redesign an emergency department? So I went to pit crew camp, learned the strategy, and now have conducted that brainstorm for hospitals all over the world. So you see my point. If we didn't think like a pit, you gotta look at it from a different perspective. The other guideline of brainstorming is when you have a setback, I always say, what's right about it? Because there's your flip, there's your pivot. And so what I do for a living is I run brainstorms.
Such a great video clip. We're back with Chic Thompson, Creative and Executive Director of Waggy Labs. Now, Chic, you've recently partnered with Geniecast on a new offering for companies called Ideastorm. Tell us about Ideastorm.
Well, what's interesting, brainstorming is all about divergent thinking, generating ideas, going for quantity. My colleague at UVA Darden Business School, Gene Litka, has designed a program called Design Thinking, along with IDEO has it also. And they do user-centric thinking. Rather than what if, it's how could we? Rather than viewing things from multiple perspectives, which is what I spent my life doing, they go, what if we just walked in the user's shoes? And it's then, as we both love improv theater, which rather than being divergent thinking or user-centric thinking, it's spontaneous non-thinking. And it's saying yes and rather than what if. I'm going, what if there was a smash up of all three things? What would that create? That's what Ideastorm is. It's a 4-hour smash up of creative thinking, design thinking, and improv thinking, which is 1 hour intro, defining the challenge. That would be on one day. Then on another day, a 2-hour ideation. Then, hopefully on the third day, would be the de-risking or the prioritization. But it could be after the ideation if that's what the client wants. But I would love it to be 1, 2, 3 days, but 4 hours. So we called it rapid ideation.
Yeah, that's so great. And I'm so happy that you brought back in the whole idea of improv theater. I mean, you mentioned it in the video clip, but really this whole idea of yes and creates new possibilities. So my next question is, how does Ideastorm assist companies to go beyond their current level of success?
what Ideastorm can do, which I mean, I've spent my life traveling, going and doing these brainstorms, and people are flying into a facility to go and do the brainstorm. Everyone's jet lagged. We're going on in. We're spending 2-3 days doing it. We've got Post-it notes everywhere. And I'm going, there's got to be a better way. COVID helped me, the setback of COVID helped me see a better way. I haven't been on a plane yet in 15 months, and I'm still running 3 and 4 brainstorms a week, and they're all over the world. And sometimes there's 5 or 6 people on, but I just did one for UPS and I had 137 people on, and they were from leaders from all over the world. And I'm going, you know, it works. I never thought it would work. I thought I had to be there live. It works. So that's why we came up with the idea that Geniecast would be the perfect platform for this, because it would allow us to make the offering to global organizations that could have people from all over the world come in, but they don't have to travel. Or it could be for the small, the non-Fortune 500 that just wants to go and have 5 or 6 people, but they're in maybe different offices or working from home. And I mean, I think brainstorming is at a higher level now because people want to be there too. I mean, they're on it and they want to be there if you make it fun. And that's where improv really helps, because you got to make it fun. You got to go with the flow on this brainstorming. And if you know it can be over 3 days, there's 1 day for defining, there's the second day for the ideation, and the third day for the de-risking and the prioritization. So it allows us to have 3 different mindsets during the time.
So what I've loved about this interview so far is that you've been alluding at a lot of your practices for the work that you do. And, you know, it's a common practice in business today to start with the why, but in your approach, you like to start with the who. So why is that?
Well, Simon and I are good friends, and we both teach for the FBI. So, I mean, I understand where he's coming from with the why. I think I was at the why too, until I got involved with the social entrepreneurship side and working on these. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Accra, Ghana, from the Assistant Surgeon General, the former Assistant Surgeon General of the United States. And he said, I want you to help me run a brainstorm. I go, okay. And he goes, we got to run a brainstorm about vaccine hesitancy in Africa. So I've done a lot of teaching in Africa. I go, okay. But I got to understand more about the who's going to be involved. I got to really learn to walk in that user's shoes of whether it's the people in Ghana or Nigeria or wherever we're going. And then it helps me I can understand the pain points through the who, and then I can go into the why. But it's a little semantic. It's just that we don't always start with the what, because that can take us down the wrong path.
Makes sense to me. That's great. So more with Chic Thompson and our 5 questions after this break. You're watching The Room.
Okay.
Welcome back. We're talking with Creative and Executive Director of Waggy Labs, Chic Thompson. Every week on The Room, Chic, we ask our guests the same 5 questions. As someone who looks at the world from many different angles to find the best ideas, We hope you'll appreciate how we're collecting insights from our guests to provide a range of expertise for our audience to have a more significant impact in their daily life. Are you ready for your 5 questions?
Sure am.
All right, question number 1. What do you see as the biggest opportunities that businesses aren't taking advantage of in the world today?
Well, since I mentioned blind spots, there's a great question to help you find your blind spot. It's saying, what would we never do? Now, I mentioned to you a blind spot is when someone says, well, we would never sell water, Pepsi. When I was with Disney in the 70s, they said our cartoons would never go on videotape. And so what's fascinating, I find a great strategy to find your personal blind spot or your organizational blind spot is to ask that question. List 5 things that your organization would never do, and then challenge them and say, what's right about them, or what would have to be true for this idea, this never idea to be valid. I'll give you an example since we mentioned the CIA and the intel work. So I was in a SCIF, a secure location, 3 years ago, and the question was, how do we get young people to join the intel world? Because they want to do social media, they want to have iPhones, they want to have watches, and you can't have any of that electronic stuff, as you know. I mean, you eat lunch in one of those agencies. I mean, nobody has laptops. I mean, they're actually talking to each other over lunch. And so I said, and they said, the big one is we got to come up with ideas to people want to work from home. And they said, but we could never work from home. And I said, well, what would have to be true that people in the intel community could work from home? And someone said, there's a global pandemic. That was 3 years ago. So I said, let's brainstorm that for 15 minutes. That's the opportunity we're all missing. Say it to yourself. What would I never do? Like, I would never take ballroom dancing lessons. I had no interest. So I challenged myself. I'm a divorced guy, single guy. I just said, okay, I'll go to do ballroom dance. I'll try it. First night, this woman, we were doing cha-cha and stuff. This woman says, hey, would you like to dance? I go, oh, okay, I'm not really good. And she goes, fine. She's really good. And she says, so what do you do? And I go, well, I teach creativity. I'm at the business school. And she goes, oh, I write poems. I go, that's really cool. You in the English department at UVA? She goes, yeah. I said, what's your name? Rita Dove. Oh, you're the poet laureate of the United States, Rita Dove. How does that happen? My point is, I call them creative collisions. Creative collisions happen when you do stuff that's uncomfortable, but you're ready to go and try. It's improv. Yeah. One definition of mastery that I use is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. So great response to question number 1. Here comes question number 2. If you could have a conversation with one person from any time or anywhere, who would it be? I'm going to go back to my neighbor who, when I was growing up, he passed away when I was very young, but I would love to go back and show him what he's done for me. He was a cartoonist. His name was Rube Goldberg. And he drew cartoons every week. And he taught me he's the reason I'm a cartoonist. He doesn't know I'm a cartoonist, but he taught me the most important life lesson, and I didn't realize it until about 10 years ago. If you looked at a Rube Goldberg cartoon, it was a contraption, and he always put letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, all that around it. Yeah. And I go, why do you put all the letters? And he goes, most people in life go from A to B as fast as possible. He says, my goal is to go from A to B using all the letters of the alphabet. I go, oh my God, that's what pivoting is. That's what the whole things we're doing in life, being ready to be able to zig and zag and all the books out there. Rube understood it. And I would just like to go back and say, Mr. Goldberg, here's my A to B in life using all the letters of the alphabet. Thank you.
Here comes question number 3. What is one book every person in business should read and why?
Oh, good. You really got me now, man. I'm severely dyslexic. So I can't mention a book. However, I could say any podcast that has Kara Swisher on it or Adam Grant. And the thing I look forward more than anything during the week to learn from is CBS Sunday Morning, which comes on at 9 a.m. It goes over books, arts, nature, and profiles everyone. So I get that information a little different, but it's a great question.
Well, but I love your answer, because when you talk about adult learners, it's visual, audio, tactile. It's really however you get that. And the dyslexia has not stopped your success in the least, which I think is a great answer.
And it's really helped me because I put it right into my talk. I mean, I let my clients know that I'm dyslexic. I'm going to misspell a little here and all that. And I say, that's my gift, because I've been looking at the world a little bit differently. And that's why my mind goes to, NASCAR, hospital ER. I give it to the dyslexia. And the fact that I came up with that idea because I watch a lot of TV and I happened to be seeing a NASCAR race and I saw a pit crew and I go, oh my God, that'd be great for triage of an ER. Yeah. So great. All right, question number 4. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? So, okay. I've never told this story before, so I'm giving it out there. When, so I was a young cartoonist. I was still at Gore, but I was drawing my cartoons, and Bill Gore knew that my dream job was to go to work for Walt Disney. And so on a tennis court, I met a gentleman, and his name was Dr. Henry. His son called him Dr. Henry. That's Dr. Henry. And because I was playing with his son and his Dr. Henry's wife. Well, it turned out to be Dr. Henry Heimlich, who is the Heimlich maneuver. And when he heard, he wasn't as interested in the Gore-Tex as he was the fact that I was a cartoonist, and he needed a poster to teach the world about the Heimlich maneuver and food trucking. So I asked him, as I'm drawing the poster for him and different things, I said, so what do I need to know about the Heimlich maneuver? He says, everyone needs to learn how to do it on themselves. I go, really? And he goes, yeah. So he taught me you can actually do it on the back of a chair. You just throw your stomach over a chair. The reason I tell you that story, because I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't learned that. 20 years ago, I was given a talk in a hotel. Dinner was late. They were announcing for me to go on up to give my talk, and I scarfed down a piece of meat, and I couldn't breathe. I'm walking up, and I'm coming close to passing out. I go to a chair, and I throw my stomach on the chair. Out pops my meat. It's sort of like it was a setup. And then I go and give my talk. My point is, Dr. Heimlich, if I hadn't asked him the question, and if we hadn't had that kind of conversation, I would have spent that night in an ER rather than giving my talk. And more people wanted to talk. Well, how do I do the Heimlich maneuver? How'd you do that? So that's, to me, what learning opportunities are all about. You turn the lemon into lemonade. So great. So great. All right. Question number 5. And your last question. Why is a conversation better than a lecture? Well, conversation, one, I love the fact that it's informal, and I love that people share things. My main thing about a conversation is to share ideas. Every time I'm in a conversation with someone, my goal is to share at least one or two ideas. Because then when we leave the conversation, they have maybe two extra ideas, and then I have two of their ideas. So that's like 2 + 2 = 4. Now, a lecture, okay, I do a lot of lectures with my students, and I think it's more formal. And then there's the students, and I'm imparting ideas, not as much Q&A. So my challenge is to flip the question then is, my goal is, how do I put, since I believe in conversation, how do I create a conversation when I'm giving a lecture? And I think that's for me, I tell personal stories. I just open the kimono. I tell the personal stories. I try to be intentional and vulnerable. And so that's how I like to blend the both. We need lectures, but I'm a big fan of conversations.
Well, in my opinion, this has been an incredible conversation today, and I wish we had 3 more hours, but I'd like to thank Chic Thompson for being my guest on The Room and sharing his thoughts and insights. Chic, what would you like to leave us with today?
I would like to leave all the viewers with a challenge. Pull out a piece of paper, write down 5 things that you would never do. Like, what course would you never take? What book would you never read? Where would you never go on vacation? And then stick it on your refrigerator door, and as you walk past it, go, what's right about that? What's the possibility there? And it's amazing. I get postcards. People still send postcards. I get postcards from people that have gone on vacation from places that they never said they would ever go based on that exercise. Yeah.
Such a great way to find your blind spots. Chic, thank you so much again for joining us. I hope to chat with you again soon. Join us next week for an encore. Thank you. Join us next week for an encore interview with Raul Leal. Raul is the former CEO of Virgin Hotels and currently is a Virgin Group board advisor for brand and design and has over 25 years experience in the hotel industry. I'm John Lanius. We'll see you next time on The Room.